Greetings. Thanks for joining me today. Professor Jared Rathel here, and you've tuned in to Lecture 1-3 entitled Biological Organization. So today we're going to be exploring how living organisms, as well as the systems that they inhabit, are composed of a multitude of structural levels. So consider these absolutely adorable fennec foxes. An individual fox, what we call an organism, is comprised of 11 organ systems. Those organ systems are composed of their constituent organs, which are made up of tissues. Tissues are made from cells. Cells, of course, run on the cellular machinery known as organelles. The organelles are composed of macromolecules. The molecules are made from atoms. The atoms are composed of subatomic particles, the protons and neutrons in the nucleus and the electrons spinning around in their orbits. Those subatomic particles are made from quarks, and we can go infinitesimally smaller until we get down to like pulsating strings. So my point is, as far as we can observe, as infinitesimally small as we can see, we see structure. And then we can go the other way. So consider that individual fennec fox. It's one member of a population of foxes that are distributed across a community of animals and plants within a larger ecosystem known as the Sahara Desert, positioned in the northern part of the African continent. Here on the third rock from the sun, planet Earth, revolving around our home star 93 million miles away, tucked into a little corner of our Milky Way galaxy, which of course is just one of an infinite number of galaxies. Our galaxy is actually on a massive collision course with a much larger galaxy known as Andromeda. My point being, as infinitely large, as far out as we can see, we again see structure. But words really don't do this profound idea justice. Let me show you what I mean. Who knew that the Minecraft world was so large? Hopefully you caught that, and hopefully you were as blown away by that video as I was. So just as a quick reminder, don't forget your guided notes 1-3 entitled Biological Organization is there in Canvas to be downloaded as a Word doc. It would be wise to recognize these levels of biological organization, have these notes handy on your upcoming assessment. Okay, the big idea today, what I hope you leave this lecture with, is the understanding that life, living things, life as we know it, can be organized into a hierarchy of structural levels. It's expressed here as a pyramid with small, simple atoms here on top, and then we get larger and more complex until we get all the way down to the biosphere, our planet in its entirety at the base. Here's another schematic showing the same principle. In short, the atoms stick together to make up molecules, which of course make up all matter, including the cellular machinery known as organelles, which comprise the cell. Here, this is a neuron. Cells, of course, are the basic unit of life. Cells working together make up tissues. Tissues acting as a singular structural unit comprise an organ, like this brain here. Groups of organs working together in systems are known as organ systems. Here's the nervous system of the sea lion. The sea lion itself is an organism. A group of sea lions, a group of individuals that are the same species, make up a population. Several different species interacting together is what we call an ecological community. The communities of plants and animals and fungus and microbes all interacting with the abiotic components, things like here the tides, the water temperature, the water pH, that represents an ecosystem from the kelp forests in Southern California to the Sonoran Desert. And then we have our biosphere, planet Earth, the third rock from the sun. So for this lecture, we're going to begin with the atomic level, but we remember that atoms are made from protons, neutrons in the nucleus, with electrons spinning around in their orbits. So life on Earth is carbon-based. The reason why is because carbon is highly reactive because of its outermost valence electron shell. So carbon is really what I call the ultimate Lego, right? Because you can stick it with so many other different atoms and make up so many different molecules. So it's capable of being this universal building block, building everything from orangutans to bananas. That said, if we do find life on other planets, either in our solar system or perhaps in other solar systems, there's no law of chemistry that dictates that life has to be carbon-based. So a very viable, possible alternative is silicon. So silicon is just one row below carbon on the periodic table, and if you notice, silicon has the exact same valence shell structure. So it's highly reactive again, capable of sticking to other atoms in a multitude of places and ways. Kind of cool, something to think about. Okay, so back here on Earth, Living organisms are primarily composed of oxygen. You guys probably guessed that I'm full of hot air. Also carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. So these four elements alone make up 96% of living organisms. That said, don't underestimate the importance of some of those rare elements. So this is a very severe case of goiter. Goiter is an enlarged thyroid glands. So this occurs from a shortage of iodine in the diet. So if you've ever looked at your table salt, most table salt is sodium iodide, so it's iodized, providing this needed element. And again, even though it's rare in living systems, imagine if you didn't have iron or a lack of iron in your blood. So that means not enough iron means not enough hemoglobin, which means not enough red blood cells, which means not enough oxygen, which is what we call anemia. And by the way, where was that iron created in the first place? That iron was forged in a nuclear fusion reaction in a long ago star. So just think about that for a moment. Your blood, right? It carries the legacy of ancient stars. You are quite literally made of star stuff. The atoms, like carbon and iodine and iron, join together in chemical bonds creating molecules. In Biology 181, you learned about the four classes of macro, large molecules: the carbohydrates, lipids or fats, proteins, and nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. Question: what is the most abundant organic, meaning carbon-based, molecule on planet Earth? Let you think about that for a second. Hint, it is a carbohydrate. And remember, the world is green. So all those plants that we see all over our planet, they build their cell walls out of a polysaccharide known as cellulose. Can we humans digest cellulose, this big sugar that's found all over the planet? Can we break down that long chain of sugar molecules into glucose so we can use it to power our bodies? Unfortunately not. But we can eat things that are capable of extracting energy from cellulose. Things like, that's right, your hamburger is ultimately powered by cellulose. So how do cattle do it? Cattle are ruminants, so they have a highly sophisticated digestive system. It actually includes 4 stomachs. The grass that they eat goes down into the rumen. You can follow the green line here. Goes down into the rumen where it's bathed in microbes, this microbial soup. It's then regurgitated, yummy, and chewed some more. This is what we call the cud. So they're mechanically digesting the cud now after it's been bathed in microbes. And then it returns to chamber 3 onto 4. So it's a very complex system. Just shows you it's not easy to break down cellulose. Moving up to the next level, you remember the organelles from Bio 181, hopefully. The nucleus houses the DNA in eukaryotic cells. The mitochondria are the power plants where cellular respiration occurs. The chloroplasts, the site of photosynthesis. So again, you're not going to need to identify cellular machinery on your assessment. You're just going to need to recognize that organelles are a specific level of biological organization. So I want to show you some beautiful pictures. These were taken with a scanning electron microscope and then color enhanced. So here you can see that beautiful phospholipid bilayer, right, that makes up the cell membrane. Here's the nuclear envelope from a eukaryotic cell. We'll talk about what that means when we talk about the history of life on Earth. There's the mitochondria doing their own thing within the larger host cell. Beautiful image of a chloroplast, and you can see those stacks of thylakoids, right? There's the stacks of thylakoids. Microscopic machinery, those organelles work together to comprise the basic unit of life, the cell. Some organisms, like the paramecium that you see on the left-hand side, is made up of just one cell. It's unicellular. Plants, like you see here on the right, as well as the animals, the fungi, and some protists are multicellular. Us humans, we consist of about 37.2 trillion cells. So some beautiful living organisms here. These are the diatoms. They're microscopic algae with hard silica shells. They're kind of like the ocean's snowflakes, if you will, producing all of these beautiful geometric shapes. The diatoms produced about 50% of the oxygen that you are breathing now. It also reminds me of an important point to bring up here, and that is the diatoms that you see here, like the paramecium on the preceding slide, are unicellular. They exist at both the cell level as well as the organism level. So they're an organism that's made up of just one cell. Okay? An ensemble of cells working together in a multicellular organism is what we call tissues. They work together to carry out a specific function or a job. So in animals, there are 4 types of tissue: muscle tissues, like you see here, nervous tissues, epithelial tissues, and connective tissues, like the adipose or fat cells that you see there. A collection of tissues joined together in a structural unit, working together to serve a common function, is an organ, like these collections of nervous tissues known as brains. Question: which one is the human brain? It's got to be the larger one on the right, right? So fast. That's actually a dolphin brain. So dolphins, the cetaceans, this is an incredibly intelligent lineage. So they're hypersocial in these family units called pods. They have complex communication signals. They're probably using names for individuals. They're capable of using tools. Different groups of dolphins in different regions have very distinct cultures. Some of them are using sponges, right, to probe for fish in the abrasive sand. So all of this requires a lot of brain power. After all, as Carl Sagan put it, interest to note that while some dolphins are reported to have learned English, our language, up to 50 words used in correct context, no human being has been reported to have learned Dolphinese. It's kind of an important point. So this is the Boto, the famous Boto. It's the pink river dolphin. It's a freshwater dolphin that lives in the Amazon River. Of organs that work together to perform usually a whole suite of functions, represent an organ system. The mammals, like we see here, have 11 organ systems. Here in this beautiful exhibit, using carefully preserved human cadavers, we can really see the exquisite intricacies of the muscular system. The cardiovascular system consists of the heart pump as well as the blood vessels, including the arteries, veins, and capillaries. And now we've arrived at the organismal level. This is the mola, the ocean sunfish. This is the heaviest bony fish in the world, weighing up to 3,500 pounds. So these guys have massive eyeballs, like softball-sized eyes, allowing them to hunt jellyfish in the deep, dark depths of the ocean. They're called sunfish because they like to lay on their side and bask in the sunlight, presumably to warm up after exploring the cold, dark depths. Another organism, these are the giant sequoias. It's a type of redwood in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. These are a species that you really just have to see with your own eyes to appreciate their grandeur. They are the most massive trees in the world that are not clonal. Clonal? Question mark. Yep, this brings us to Pando. This grove of quaking aspen is actually a single living organism. All of these, what appear to be individual trees, are genetically identical, and they're connected via a massive underground root system. Pando, which is Latin for I spread out, occupies 106 acres of land and is estimated to weigh, get this, over 13 million pounds. It is the heaviest known single organism on the planet. Its root system is thought to be 80,000 years old, so making it one of the oldest organisms as well. A single organism, Pando. Population is a localized group of organisms that are the same species. And by that I mean they're capable of interbreeding. So we're going to return to what it means to be a species here in a couple of lectures. And we're going to return to populations during our final ecology unit. An ecological community is several populations of different species interacting together. So a coral reef is a great example of a incredibly biologically rich community. As an important side note, an ecological community doesn't necessarily have to be macroscopic. The community of microbes living in your gut, in your small intestine, is an incredibly biologically diverse community. It's a rainforest in your gut, representing lots of different species competing for different resources passing through your intestinal tract. This appears to be that cellulose that we were talking about earlier, that indigestible material. Communities of different species interact with the abiotic physical environment. Here, water currents, temperature, pH levels. We've now arrived at the ecosystem level. So consider the Great Barrier Reef off the northeastern coast of Australia. So massive it can be seen from space. So fear not, we're coming back to this ecosystem when we talk about ecology. And lastly, we've arrived at home sweet home, our biosphere, planet Earth, that 4.5 billion year old third rock from the sun. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief tour of the levels of organization within living things. I very much appreciate your time. Thanks.